the most powerful thing that we have control over. Not what people do, but it's how do we respond? Because the thing about it is this: when you're saying, I forgive you, you're not saying, I want to be in relationship with you. You're not saying, I even wish you well. But what you are saying is that I refuse to allow you to put me in further bondage. We are so thankful to have you, Dr. Brenda Caldwell, the Doctor of Hope, with us here in the studio of the Herland Report. We have been looking so much forward to speaking to you, as we know you are an empowerment speaker here in the United States. You travel so many nations. You are a psychologist specializing in the therapy of forgiveness.
Yes.
And you have a number of books written on that. From Charcoal to Diamond is one of them, and Surgery for the Soul.
Surgery for the Soul.
And you're an artist as well.
I am.
Yes, and a visionary one. And it seems to me that your motto in life is that living a rich life is living a life of purpose. And you seem to embody precisely that.
I do. Thank you for the opportunity to be on the Herland Report and just to share. It is my passion. It is my heartbeat, Hanne, to be able to impact someone's life with the message of forgiveness. It's a difficult subject that we talk about. Many people don't know how to forgive. People don't really tell us how to forgive, how to let go of pain, how to let go of hurt, how do you let go of anger, how do you move from a place of being a victim to becoming victorious. And so with my life, in terms of how God uses me, I'm very fortunate that I get to live out my purpose, and I get to be able to touch people in a way that my own pain became purpose. And so you mentioned my book, Surgery for the Soul. I'd like to share a little bit about Surgery for the Soul and how it was birthed, and why am I so passionate about forgiveness. And it's because Surgery for the Soul was birthed out of tragedy. A child who I loved dearly, very close to me, he was brutally murdered by someone who took his pain out on this special child that was in my life. And I was faced with, and I had a counseling practice, Hanne. So I knew, in theory, I needed to forgive him. I needed to forgive this murderer who was only 21 years old at the time. And I want you to understand, I needed to make that decision in order for me not to be in pain. I had walked other people through the steps of forgiveness. But when it comes close to you, then all that theory goes out the window because you're in pain. And that's how I felt. And I was in prayer about, wanting to forgive, but struggling with, because it was a very hurtful thing that happened, because he was brutally murdered. He was savagely murdered, and it was unfair. And he was a child that loved God and loved life. And the essence of it is this, though. I met a lady who so impacted my life. She's a lady who had decided to forgive her father and her brother, whom both had raped her. And so she said to me, but I have forgiven them. And I said to her, well, tell me how you forgave. How did you forgive? This was years ago. I said, I'm struggling with forgiving someone who murdered this very special child. So tell me, how did you do it? And she said something that was so powerful, and it stayed with me, and it has stayed with me for life. And I share this principle. She taught me about what it means, Hanne, to be beguiled. To be beguiled means to be tricked or deceived into doing something, committing an act that a person thinks is okay to do. In other words, they were deceived. Remember how Eve was deceived by the serpent? Well, that was the first time it's recorded that someone was beguiled. It said that the serpent beguiled her. Well, when I was hearing this story, she let me know that what she was able to do was separate father and her brother, separate them from the spirit, if you will, of lust and perversion. And she realized that in their right mind, they would never, ever have violated her. When I was hearing that, it made sense to me. Because who would in their right mind murder a child? Who in their right mind would beat someone? Who in their right mind would betray a confidence or friendship? Who in their right mind would really intentionally hurt us? Someone who's capable of doing that, obviously, Hanne, has been what? Beguiled. They've been deceived. And it may seem real simple and too general, but no, in the essence of wanting to be free, because the person that we're hurting is ourselves. So I made a decision, and I made that decision on August the 18th, 2003. I sat in a chair, and I wrote the name of the person who murdered this child. And I said everything to him I wanted to say. I told him how evil his act was and how wrong it was. And I had a lot of emotion. I said everything that I wanted to say to him. That's one of the problems. We don't forgive. We don't feel that people let us express our true heart, our true self, and to be able to be real. I always tell my clients, you cannot heal until you get real. When you get really real, meaning true to yourself, authentic, transparent, then God can heal. So when I did that, I made a decision. I said everything I wanted to say, and then I said something, Hanne, that set me free, and it set me on course to write the book, Surgery for the Soul, to help other people get free. And doors opened for me to begin to really teach this simple principle, and that is, how do we forgive? You know how we really forgive, Hanne? We choose to forgive. It's choosing to release the hurt, the offense, the pain, and choosing to no longer hold an offense against someone who has caused us hurt. And the problem is we refuse to do that because I need you to hurt like you hurt me. And when I did that to that young man, I did it therapeutically. He wasn't there. You don't have to have a person there, because when you're forgiving, you're doing it for yourself to set your own heart free. And would you believe what happened? 13 years went by. I had forgiven him. I had gone around the world talking about forgiving him. And one day the Lord said to me, well, Brenda, you have told everybody else that you have forgiven this murderer. I need you to tell him. I want you to write a letter to him in prison. Let him know that he's been forgiven. And you know what? I did. Little did I know he would write me back. And you know what he said to me? Thank you, Father. I will never forget it. In his letter, he said to me, now I know God is real because you forgave somebody like me. He received this letter on his 34th birthday. He said, I have been praying for 13 years to be forgiven by somebody in your family. He said, now I know there must be a God. I have to look at my hands every day to beat your loved one. I have to look at these hands and I wonder, how could I do that to a child? And I have in turn been able to reach out to this person and let the very person whose evil act gave birth to Surgery for the Soul, I've used that book to reach out and counsel with him and to let him know that he is forgiven and that he too was beguiled. And it has freed him. And it's been an amazing thing that I would actually, to some degree, have a relationship with that murderer. But it's because we are all, none of us are exempt. And we all need to understand that when someone has wounded us, do you know that wounders need to be forgiven? And that's the thing that humbled me when I was struggling with forgiving him. And that is, I got this message in my heart. And that is that, and it was from God. And it was like God saying, well, daughter, my son was murdered. I understand. I want you to be free. And I want you to help free other people. So you must extend that mercy to him. And that's what forgiveness is. It's putting ourselves on the same level, the same, not exalting ourselves as if we're better than them, but saying I'm equal, because every day I need to be forgiven, whether it's for wrong thoughts or wrong actions. I may not have murdered someone, but we all fall short of the glory of God. So it's important. That's what gave birth to Surgery for the Soul.
And what a story of freedom, because so many of us are struggling with so many things that puts chains on our own life.
Yes.
And Charles Dickens, the British writer, spoke of that in several of his books. These chains that we forge in life.
Yes.
And we have to carry them both in this life and in the next life. So the brilliance in forgiving and the brilliance in letting go of those hurts that others inflicted on you really takes you from a place of slavery.
Absolutely.
You're a slave to your feelings. You're a slave to the family around you. You're a slave to so many issues around you. And you're able to unloosen those shackles.
Absolutely.
And become free. And like you said too, it doesn't matter also that much whether the person wants to be forgiven or whether the person might even already be dead. Exactly. Or the person might stand there and curse you. Exactly. So you're not actually doing it for the sake of that person either. Although in your story it ended all so well, with grace for that individual as well. Exactly. But you're also forgiving to let go of that hatred and anger so that you may step into a greater freedom.
There's no way that I would be on your show today and have the spirit of joy, peace, happiness, a sense of purpose. That's the beauty. In life, things happen that many times we don't understand. That's why in the sovereignty of God, there are things that would happen that just can rock our world. But that's why the Bible says not all things will be good, look good, or feel good. But in his sovereignty, all things have this way. Somehow, when we give those things to God that we don't understand, they will work together for good. And you know how my story works together for good? Every time I get to lead someone to a place of forgiveness, every time I get to counsel with someone, every time I get to speak to an audience, big or small, on the power of forgiving and releasing so that you can be free, then Stephen, my little nephew, whose life I must admit, I have to say his name. And the reason is because the first Christian who was ever martyred, his name was Stephen. And Stephen is the name of this child. And the beautiful thing about it is his death was not in vain. His death, every time someone forgives, then his memory gets to be alive. His story gets to be alive. And his purpose gets to be fulfilled. You don't have to live a long life to have a powerful impact. And so for me, that's what the gift of forgiveness did for me. It brought purpose out of pain. Only God can bring purpose out of pain, a ministry out of misery, a message out of a mess, a triumphant story out of a tragic story. I mean, it's a beautiful thing what God can do. And that's why someone who's watching right now, who may be saying, Dr. B, I can't forgive. You just don't know what they did. I can't let it go. No, I refuse to let it go. I refuse. They're going to get away with it. If I forgive them, then they never have to say I'm sorry. They never have to admit what they did. They never have to pay for what they did. Well, here's the problem with that. The problem is that you're doing exactly what you said. You're putting yourself in chains and bondage because you have no control of any of those things. The most powerful thing that we have control over, not what people do, but it's how do we respond? Because the thing about it is this: when you're saying I forgive you, you're not saying I want to be in relationship with you. You're not saying I even wish you well. But what you are saying is that I refuse to allow you to put me in further bondage. That's why it's so important to make that decision. So many cancer patients, so many people who struggle with diseases, doctors, it's medically proven. Doctors are now sending people to me to receive things like forgiveness therapy. That's being recommended. I have many clients who come to me who have so many issues in their heart, and doctors can't find anything wrong. And they're telling them, it's not your physical heart, it's your emotional heart. You need to go get help. And so it's because we won't let go of those things. But forgiveness is a great gift. And what you're doing is you're deciding to be free. And that's why I tell people here, it's like these little words right here, FORGIVE. When you choose to forgive, Hanne, you're choosing to be free. You're choosing to live. You're choosing to have hope. You're choosing to take your life out of pain and out of bondage. And you're choosing to say, you know what? Yes, this happened to me. Yes, you did that to me, but you did not destroy me. I am not going to drink the poison of hate. I'm not going to drink the toxin of anger. I'm not. I am going to bounce back, and I will live. And this is the surgery. And this is what I walk people through, the Surgery for the Soul experience. I've done that around the country. I bring a team in, and somebody may be listening that may be interested in booking a Surgery for the Soul event. We come in and we do what is equivalent to a one-day heart surgery. We literally allow people to experience in one day what 5 years of counseling can do. And it has to do with teaching people how in a practical way. And so we have something that we do called the forgiveness wall. And the forgiveness wall allows people to literally go to a wall, close their eyes, and then literally therapeutically get a lot of those wrong feelings and emotions out in such a healthy way, in a controlled way that allows them to say, but today I choose to forgive. That word choose is a powerful word, because choose means to make a decision after considering all options. We can hear this message and say, well, I choose not to forgive. Well, then you're just choosing to keep yourself in pain. Or you can listen to this message and say, you know what? I choose to forgive because she's right. They're right. I want to be free. And that's the power of letting go. That's what let go means. If you take the two words, let go. Let means, Hanne, it means to allow or to give or to give permission. And the word go means to move away from. If you put those two words together in the context of forgiveness, to let go really means to give yourself permission to move away from the pain of your past so that it no longer has to control your future. That's why I always tell people, stop having an affair with the past so you don't cheat on your future. You still have a future no matter what happened in your past. This is the surgery, I believe, that heals the soul, genuinely. That's why I do what I do.
Thank you very much. We are here speaking to the Doctor of Hope, Dr. Brenda Caldwell, coming all the way from Europe to hear this very special message that you have. Psychologist and renowned here in the United States. You travel all over. We are humbled and very thankful that you took out of your valuable time to joining us here at the Herland Report.
It's my honor.